A warm welcome to everybody to this committee. Good morning. It is 4 minutes past 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 11th of July 2023. My name is Councillor Ian Selby. I'm the Chairman of the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I will be chairing this meeting today with my Vice Chairman, who is Councillor Emma Baker. We're not expecting a fire alarm to sound today. If the alarm goes off, please leave the building by the nearest exit. The assembly point is on the green in front of St Peter's Hill Surgery. Can you please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off or turned to silent for the duration of the meeting? Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded and being live streamed. So hello to anybody that's watching via public and on the Council's website. Please can you ensure that your microphones are turned on when speaking? I would like to welcome all councillors, officers, members of the public here today. No, not at the moment, for joining our meeting today. And so, yeah, warm welcome to you all for coming. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time. It's nice to see people showing an interest in this committee. It is one of the most important, in my view, of all the committees, so warm welcome to all the committee members and our officers as well. And also, I would like to welcome Mr. Adrian Ash, who is an intern and is recently joined the council, and we're sadly due to lose Anne-Marie Coulthard at the end of this week. So Adrian's just stepped in. And Adrian, would you like to give a brief introduction and a little bit of background of where you're from?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning to you all. As the Chair states, I'm Adrian Ash. I'm the Interim Assistant Director who will be covering Anne-Marie's role once she has left. By way of a short introduction, my background has been an interim for over 20 years, and my last role was with the London Borough of Merton. I've spent some time in London prior to that with the Royal Borough of Greenwich and Hammersmith and Fulham, and I've covered a wide portfolio of services. So I'm looking forward to my short time with you, working here with you at South Kesterville.
Adrian, warmest welcome to you. Okay, we'll move on to the agenda. Just to say that we will have an item 9A on the agenda, and that will be an update on the A1 litter issue. Move on to public speaking. We've had 2 questions come in, and Amy to my right is going to introduce the question, and we've got a response. The first question one will be the response from our officer Anne-Marie, then the second one will be from Serena.
Thank you, Chairman. So we've received 2 questions. The first one is in relation to the separate collection of paper and card. The first question is, the paper says that household with a 240 litre silver bin will be issued with a 240 litre purple lidded bin. What about those who have a 120 litre bin? Thank you.
So this is the response that's been provided to the requester. We've less than 30 households with a 140 litre wheel bin, which could have been purchased as part of an initiative a number of years ago. These have not been available for some time. The 240 litre purple lidded bin is the standard size for the scheme across Lincolnshire, where residents have difficulty manoeuvring bins to the curbside. For example, for health reasons, they can request an assisted collection from an agreed location. If there are genuine concerns about space, households will be able to discuss their specific circumstances with the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Second question, please.
Thank you. So the second question is on item relating to the street lights to LED. And the question is whether there would be any consideration of the colouring of lights in regard to wildlife. Thank you.
Serena, please.
Thank you, Chair. So a full response to this has been provided via email, but as a little bit of a summary, very early installations of LED streetlights were associated with bluer spectrum light. Modern LED lights tend towards a neutral colour, which lessens some of that impact. Regarding specific considerations for bat-friendly lights, again, certain spectrums of lights do have potential to interfere with the natural behaviour of bats. I believe that Worcestershire County Council has installed a trial of a specific red-tinted lighting to address this issue. In our search, they were the only local authority identified to have done this, specifically regarding the temperature of the light, but it's noted that many other local authorities have opted to turn off the lights during the night, which also lessens the impact on wildlife. Thank you.
Many thanks indeed. Okay, just to say on the public speaking, if there's anybody watching via the internet, we absolutely welcome questions to this committee. It is one of the most important roles, as I've said, that we undertake. The environment, it touches nearly most aspects of council work. So questions from the public, please, we absolutely welcome them. Apologies for absence, please, Amy.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Charmaine Morgan, and we've also received apologies from our Cabinet member, Councillor Rees-Baker. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Disclosure of interest. Does any member have any interest they wish to declare, or if during the meeting they think of something, please do let us know during the meeting. Any interest? No? Okay, thank you. Minutes from the meeting held on the 14th of March 2023. We do have here we have Councillor Mark Whittington, who was at that meeting, and also Gloria Johnson as well. We can actually, I believe, vote on this. However, I'm sure if you'd like to say if you're happy with the correct record. Okay. Are you happy with it, Mark?
Yes, I'm happy to second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so you're happy with the correct record of that? All those in favour? Yeah. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll record those as a correct record then. Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, announcements from the Leader of the Council, Cabinet members or the Head of Paid Services. Richard, any? No? Okay. Any Cabinet members?
I don't believe there are any Cabinet members here for this portfolio.
Is that behind you? Councillor Baxter?
Not for this portfolio, though. Thank you.
I believe, Mark, it's any Cabinet member, I believe. Or I would welcome any Cabinet member, to be honest with you, Mark. So, Councillor Baxter?
Yes, if I may. I mean, I think it does relate. The item isn't specific about which Cabinet members there are. I just wanted to draw members' attention to the Climate Change Reserve proposal, which is currently going through the 3 meetings. We would welcome any conversations about any kind of early warning of nominations for how that fund, which is suggested at £300,000, should be spent. We have some ideas, but as that rolls along, we'd welcome initiatives either for that fund or for addressing the issues of climate change, biodiversity, and energy and environment generally. All ideas welcome from all parts of the council.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashley, for that. So if anybody's got any ideas that they want to bring forward, please do contact Ashley or any of our officers, and word will get to Ashley, I'm sure. So yeah, thank you for that, Ashley. Okay, move on now to item number 6, the end of year KPIs. This is the performance against the corporate plan key performance indicators, and I'm going to ask Debbie Roberts if she would like to introduce this item for us, please. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. The report before members today is the end-of-year data, which represents information up to the 31st of March 2023. So in the report today, we're recommending to committee that you scrutinise the performance against the key performance indicators, and that you use this report to inform your ongoing work programme. Some background to the report. So the corporate plan was approved by Council on the 1st of October 2023, and each scrutiny committee approved the set of KPIs related to the committee in 2021. So each committee gets mid-year reports and end-of-year reports. So before the committee today are, in Appendix A, 5 key actions. 2 of those actions are green, 3 of those actions are amber, and there are no red actions for the committee to consider. In Appendix A is the last quarter, so quarter 4 information, but actually in 2.8 onwards in the body of the report is a bit more of context to those for the new members to the committee. So it provides a bit more of a response to that action to give a bit more detail. But I'm happy to go through each of those actions. Thank you.
Debbie, thank you very much indeed. Okay, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take them one at a time. These items there, with regarding this OSC, the items on page 24 which relate to this committee. Just to say from the outset that where there's a grey box on the right hand side, just to say that actually indicates that's the not reported grey box, I should say. They are completed or slightly amended. I believe that was a question that Councillor Morgan asked at a recent OSC, so just to clarify that. So I'm going to go through them one at a time rather than going backwards and forwards from them. So I'm going to take the item number 3 on the list first. So if does any member, I'm going to take the members of the committee first, then if any members of the cabinet wish to speak, and then open it up to other councillors that's come along today. So number 3, Councillor Mark Whittington. Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. If I'm reading this right, it's on the our approach to waste management that we're actually doing, which is amber. My question, well, I was going to direct this question to the portfolio holder for environment, but unfortunately neither of them seem to be present this morning, which is a little disappointing. But perhaps another member of the cabinet can perhaps pick this one up. I noticed that the amount, the take-up of the green bins seems to be declining. I'm just wondering what policies, ideas, suggestions the cabinet have to try and increase the take-up again of green waste collections. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yes, thank you very much, Mark, for that. So unfortunately, the cabinet members are unable to attend today. However, Councillor Ashley Baxter is quite happy to take the response to reply to this.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. I don't know if members are aware, but Councillor Baker is a school teacher, and I guess he had the choice of leaving 30 children on their own or coming here. So I think we've got to bear with in the early days. However.
So can I just say from the outset, please, I don't want to hear any talking over top of any other members that's speaking, please. Please, all I ask is just a little respect for fellow members. So it would be appreciated if we just note that, basically. Ashley, would you like to continue?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. The number of green garden waste bins is an indicator. I wouldn't say it is a measure of success, because you could have limitless numbers of green bins, and in some ways what it actually encourages is the collection of waste which could otherwise be composted or disposed of in another way. What it really measures is people's ability to afford the I think it's now £50 green bin, and the number of bins can go up per house as well as across the district. As we will probably hear later on, some people find it difficult to find space for 240 litre wheeled bins, and so I'm not saying that this indicator is spurious. It is a useful indicator to see how many people are interested in creating beautiful gardens and collecting the waste, but I think there's a lot more that we can do as an authority to discourage green waste in green bins or otherwise, by promoting composting, by promoting lawn mulching and leaf mulching and so on. And so, yes, I think the measure is 1% growth in the year, and we've achieved less than that. This is not this is not going to be the solution to climate change on its own.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Baxter. And Mark, would you like to come back briefly?
Yes, please. My apologies for interjecting, but I really do have concerns about this. I mean, I appreciate that one of the portfolio holders cannot be here today because of work commitments, but my understanding was the reason why there was a job share in place was so they could cover it. And there still isn't a cabinet member here, so I find that extremely disappointing, Mr. Chairman, and I think I'd like that to go on the record, actually, that we don't have the portfolio holder here. In response to what Councillor Baxter has said, I agree with him. I mean, I particularly don't use the green bin service because I do a mixture of composting and lawn washing, as Councillor Baxter suggested. But I'm just wondering if these are things that we should be giving some promotion to via our comms to encourage other people to perhaps do the same as well. I mean, I'm not saying that the green bins work for everybody, and other people make their own arrangements, but it's just a question of getting that balance, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Whittington. I'm going to bring in Graham Watts, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just in relation to cabinet member attendance, obviously the leader and the deputy leader are in attendance here at the meeting and are effectively covering for the cabinet members. If the committee hasn't explicitly requested the attendance of the cabinet member, then I don't think it's necessarily very fair for the cabinet member to be expected to be in attendance as put. So I just wanted to make it clear that perhaps in future, if the committee, feel very strongly about the cabinet member being in attendance themselves, then perhaps that request should be made to that individual cabinet member. Just wanted to place that on contribute that to the proceedings, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. Appreciate that. Briefly, please, Mark.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As the previous portfolio holder, I made sure I attended all the Scrutiny Committee meetings because I think the cabinet members should. I don't think it should be down to the committee to request them. It should be part of the responsibility of the job to attend the
Mark, thank you. I think
meetings.
Mr. Watts has replied as such that.
Well, I still have grave concerns why the cabinet members aren't here.
Maybe the case. Okay, I'm going to move on from that particular issue now. I'm sorry, Councillor Baxter, if it's related to that issue, we've had a response from Mr. Watts, so that I'm taking that as the position. Okay, now before we move on from number three, does any of our officers have a comment on number three, or should we're happy to move on? 1 second, please, Graham. Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Chairman. I would just draw members of the committee's attention to 2.8 of the report, which does give some commentary around the potential reasons for a decline in that year, attributable perhaps to the increase during COVID-19 and people then returning perhaps to normal practices did see some decline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Graham, I know you requested to speak. Was it in relation to number three?
Yeah. So part of this is maximising we're below target on maximising the commercial and other opportunities. And the target for this is a baseline for growth. What does that mean specifically, a baseline for growth, and what is being done to maximise the commercial opportunities of our waste services?
Okay, what the officers like to answer? Thank you.
So this is a growth, year-on-year growth on that. There is a strong focus on communications through our website, through media messages, and that's the main core of promoting the garden waste service that we have in place, and also through newsletters that go out to residents.
Okay, Councillor Gill, thank you.
Thank you for that. Perhaps that's we need a political answer for this in terms of what's the baseline for growth. I mean, I would like to echo Mark's comments in that the environment cabinet member really is, or one of them is, expected to show up for the environment overview and scrutiny committee. So perhaps if I can direct this question to the leader of the council.
Councillor Gill, I'm ever so sorry. We've had the position from Mr. Watts. That's as far as I'm prepared to go on this particular subject with regard to the cabinet members. I want to move on and concentrate on the environmental issues as such, please.
Sorry, so if they're not present, can I just direct that to the leader, please? Just thank you, in their stead. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm ruling that we've had the position come from Mr. Watts on this. If you want to raise this under any other forum with regarding that, then please do. So
my question, though, is unanswered about what is the target for commercial growth. And
that's fair enough. That's a fair enough.
Perhaps Councillor Baxter. Thank you.
Okay, come on then, Ashley, give us an answer on that.
Thank you. We spoke about this at one of the member briefings a week or so ago. The garden waste collection is ring-fenced to garden waste. We are not intending, and I don't think we're even allowed to make commercial gain on the bins, and I think that does need explaining. Yes, so the other commercial waste, we're talking about trade waste. Yes, looking to you for to make sure I'm not talking about the wrong thing. With trade waste, it was explained to us in a briefing last week, to which all members were invited, that at the point where we set up the trade waste, we were trying to disrupt the market, and people like, am I allowed to name commercial contractors, Biffa, Veolia, any other service provider? I'm certainly not picking on those two particularly, but the free market was collecting the trade waste from businesses, commercial operations in South Kesteven, and it was thought that the collection costs were too high, and therefore we set up a trade waste scheme, and again, without setting up an external company, we are not allowed to make a profit by doing those services. We could have set up Trade Waste Trade Waste SK if we wanted to. I wouldn't suggest we do. However, we've got the bank of customers. We're now at the point with the trade waste, if I remember rightly, that if we took on many more customers, we would need another vehicle. And if we wanted to get a new vehicle just for doing trade waste, there would be a cost, and it's a gear shift in terms of the level of service available.
Okay, should I come back, please, Graham?
Yeah, thank you for that answer. So just to clarify, it's cost recovery, basically, is the baseline target, cost recovery based upon inflation, etc.
I'm looking at the Section 151 officer, but yes, we would at least expect to regain our costs.
Okay, thank you for that, Ashley. Mark, you'd like to come in with a question?
I could just ask for some clarification on this, because certainly my understanding was that whilst green waste, it had to be at cost recovery basis, so we couldn't make a profit. For trade waste, we could actually make a profit, which seems to be different to what Councillor Baxter just said. So I'm now unsure, and would like some clarification. Perhaps one of the officers could potentially help us with this. Thank you.
Any officer would like to reply?
Yeah, the law is clear. The council cannot make a profit outside of a trading entity, hence why, under the Localism Act, councils were encouraged to set up companies if they wish to pursue commercial activities. So whilst it's called commercial waste, it's called commercial waste because it's operating in the commercial sector, not because it's trading at a profit.
Thank you very much. Okay, on page number 24, moving on to Number 5 is the next one. That's on target. Does anybody have any comments on that? Any other? Councillor Whittington?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Chairman. This is again, obviously we're much aware that the grounds maintenance service got insourced on the 1st of April 2023. I'm just wondering if either one of the cabinet members present or one of the officers could provide us with an update as to how the insourcing is working. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think Ashley would like to answer it. So,
yes, and I would invite one of the officers to put me right if I go too far. But the integration of street scene with grounds maintenance only happened about a week or a week and a half ago. So I would say it's too early to say the success or otherwise of that. As for the demise of Environment SK, I don't know if that kind of legal process has been finished, but Environment SK is no longer. It is deceased. It is shaken off this mortal coil, The downside, which I don't think I'd fully appreciated at the time, is that street scene used to be integrated with waste management, and so there were some advantages to the people collecting the refuse having a very close relationship with street scene. There is an advantage to having grounds maintenance being with street scene. You can't have everyone together, but we may see a little bit of a knock-on in terms of if the refuse wagons go round on a day that's particularly windy and there is a bit more litter scattered about, it will take a little while to get a seamless litter recovery the day after due to that, but very early days.
Okay. Mark, just to say, if you've indicated to speak and have acknowledged you, or if my Vice Chair has acknowledged it, just to save you, keep it holding your hand up at all. So I'm just trying to save your arm for making, Mark. So
it's just
but if I do miss you, and please
because
do.
I'm really pleased that the integration between the grounds maintenance team and the street scene teams now happened, because obviously that was an integral part of the whole plan. Now, obviously, that was done on the basis that it would result in quite a lot of, in a certain amount of savings of £700,000 to the council by doing this. Whilst I appreciate this very early days, I'm just wondering, Mr. Chairman, if perhaps when things have settled down in a few months' time, if we could have an update as to how it's going, and if any of the cost savings that have been identified have materialised, and to what value. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Whittington, thank you very much indeed. My Vice Chairman has indicated to me as well that we could put this on the work programme. But thank you for that. Councillor Baxter, if you'd like to come back.
Yes, I'd welcome that. Obviously, no problem with that. What we won't get repaid back is the cost of the Environment SK experiment, which is likely to be hundreds of thousands of pounds that is non-returnable. I don't think it's cost us as much as initially thought. However, there is a cost to the council of winding up. There was a cost to the council of setting up Environment SK. There is a cost to the council of winding it down again. But obviously that was before our time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as well, just to remind the committee, in the briefing we did touch on this, the Environment SK closure process and the final position of Environment SK will come back to this committee anyway as part of its terms of reference to formally approve the accounts. But at the moment, they're with external accountants being put together, but the final P&L for Environment SK will come here. And we did suggest as well that as Councillor Whittington has touched on, the ongoing specification and standards for street scene and grounds maintenance may be a topic for this committee to consider in the future, as well as we develop a new standard for that service going forward. With respect to any potential savings that follow the integration, I would suggest they come through the Finance and Economy Overview and Scrutiny Committee, because there will be a budgetary implication that will be picked up in that reporting.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wells. That obviously makes sense. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, moving on to number 6. Work with the Lincolnshire Waste Partnership to reduce waste and further improve recycling. We're below target on that. Any questions, please? Councillor Whittington.
Sorry,
no, please don't apologise. I want your comments, Mark.
It's possibly as the previous portfolio holder. What I would say in terms of the below target, one of the items that we are likely to discuss, we were discussing this morning regarding the separate collection of paper and card. Those 4 districts across Lincolnshire that have introduced it so far have seen roughly an 8% increase in their recycling rates. We're currently sort of looking fairly low. The reality is the paper and card should help to boost that up. So it's not really just a question, it's more just information for the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Most helpful, thank you. Okay, moving on to number 7. Recognise the changes in environmentally friendly modes of transport and seek to work with others to adapt required infrastructure. We're on target with that. Any comments with regard to that? Okay, Mark.
Mr. Chairman, at the moment, I think we got. I think it's 12 charging points across the district that we run. Just the council. I'm just wondering if there's plans to to roll any more out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll ask our officers if they'd like to reply to that.
We don't have any current plans to increase that number, but obviously it could come forward as part of the work programme out of the climate action strategy at a later point.
Okay, Debbie, thank you for that. Okay, and finally on to number 9, building a new modern depot which is fit for the future, and we're below target on that one. It says, any comments on that? Councillor Whittington.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. As I think members of this committee and the Finance Committee are aware, there is a joint meeting of these two committees in a few weeks' time to push this forward. So again, just information for the record. Thank you.
There is indeed, Councillor Whittington, and I believe you will be chairing that meeting, and I'll be vice chairman of that. So, so very much look forward to that, and any other members' input for that. Okay, right, any final comments from our officers? Are you okay? Right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is number 7. Introduction of the separate collection of paper and card, the twin stream recycling, and I'm going to go to Anne-Marie Coulthard on this one, please. Oh, sorry, do apologise. Yeah, but Ashley's going to introduce this one, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to introduce on behalf of the Cabinet. Obviously, the Cabinet members are not here, as has been mentioned. I'm happy to introduce this. 1995 to 1998, I was a recycling officer, and I actually introduced the first paper and card recycling collection in the East Midlands. It's still, I think it's still on my CV. I don't look at it very often. However, the reason for this twin stream recycling is, as has been mentioned in the previous item, we have a woeful recycling rate, not just across South Kesteven. It used to be over 50%, it's now struggling to reach 40%, but also across Lincolnshire and across the country. Compared to other comparative European states, we are dreadful at recycling. So, as Councillor Whittington will know, with the support and partnership of the Lincolnshire Waste Partnership, there is a rollout of paper and card across Lincolnshire. I believe that 3 or 4 authorities have already done this, and they've taken the pain and learnt some of the lessons ahead of us and for us. So that's all good. The paper is likely to go to paper mills around the place. Currently it's staying in the UK, it's staying quite close, and the quality of paper that is going to that plant is higher than, it's one of the best sets of paper, and long may it continue. How long it does continue to be the kind of the premier source of paper is debatable, because we have the Environment Act coming along the way, we're told. Whether or not it will be implemented this side of a general election, nobody knows. However, when everybody in the UK is forced or mandated to do paper and card recycling, obviously there will be a massive amount of paper and card available for collection, and whether or not the supply outstrips the demand, who can tell? But I would think that the price of paper will go down. Not our problem, because we're not the waste disposal authority. We are the waste collection authority, and we hand our waste, paper included, over to the county, and they get the best price for it that they can. The county is, I want to say leading this scheme, but certainly funding this scheme, and so the implementation of the twin stream recycling is a county project, and Lincolnshire County Council, of which both Councillor Whittington and I and the leader of the council, others, are members of the county council, but this is a scheme which is funded by the council. All the new bins are funded by the council, and they will send a team of educators along with this scheme. So we won't just be launching it tomorrow and hope for the best. We're planning to launch this early in the new year, which will probably mean February, because we'll have a black bin, a silver bin, a black bin, and then a purple lidded bin. So probably late January or early February will be the first collection for most South Kesteven residents, and between now and then we expect to have a campaign of education about recycling generally, which is very welcome. and we'll also include what we're supposed to be putting in the grey bins at the moment, because the grey bins, currently what goes in the grey bins is 30% contaminated, partly because of contamination of jam pots and drinks containers and so on, and partly because of an evident lack of knowledge of how the scheme works. The scheme doesn't work by filling up your black bin and then using the grey bin, and I think we have a big education project anyway, regardless of the twin bin scheme. So we have a real opportunity to do something about it, and also educate people along the way about the best ways to recycle textiles, batteries, and other materials. So I think I've said enough about this, other than we recognise as a Cabinet, and I'm sure as a Council, we recognise that change doesn't come without incident, and it will be a surprise to a lot of people to have an extra bin. A lot of people might assume that it's costing the Council a lot of money. It isn't. We are not increasing the number of vehicles, we are not increasing the number of collections, we are just rearranging the way that we're asking people to present their waste. I recognise that some people do not have massive gardens. Some people don't have green waste bins because they have no green waste to put in this bin. And I think maybe that's the challenging part of this, is to engage those residents who are going to struggle to find the room for the bin within their property, and we plan to work with those residents well. I think I've said enough. If any of the officers, Anne-Marie, want to pick up on anything I've missed, I'd be delighted.
Councillor Baxter, I think you're very comprehensive on that. Thank you very much indeed. I think you've got a lot of points. So just ask if there's any of the officers want to pick up any missed points or whatever, or shall we come back? We're happy to come back.
I think it's really just to reiterate that we are the fifth council to roll this out, so there's an awful lot of learning that's already gone ahead of that, which we're able to take forward. And in terms of, as Councillor Baxter has mentioned, bringing this forward at this point allows us a number of months to go through education, engagement before the actual collection starts, so we need to take every advantage of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you for your work on this particular item. Appendix 3 gives a schedule as well of the way hopefully it's going to pan out. Okay, I want to take committee members first, and then if there's anybody else wishes to speak, please do feel free. Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I do welcome this paper. If circumstances had been different in May and I was still the portfolio holder, I would be presenting this paper today. It's agreed. It's important to sort of make the point, I think, to residents, is that it is a legal requirement of the Environment Act of 2021 that councils introduce separate collections of paper and card. And this solution, this sort of Lincolnshire county-wide solution, is Lincolnshire Waste Partnership's response to that. As Anne-Marie has just mentioned, 4 councils have already rolled this out. There have been significant lessons that have been learnt along the way, and as a result, Councillor Baxter referred to the quality of the paper of the material being presented. That's because of the learning that has gone on through the other 4 councils. So it makes perfect sense, I think, for us to join the scheme. As has been mentioned, all the costs are being picked up for the new bins are picked up by the County Council. They will send their team, who are now quite expert in the implementation, along to help and support us. Just the 2 things I do want to mention, though. I know Councillor Baxter referred to those people who maybe live in flats or live in terrace streets, or maybe in houses with small gardens. I appreciate that a certain number of people are currently still on bags and will remain on bags regardless. But I'm just wondering what sort of ideas Councillor Baxter or the officers have got regarding how we communicate and how we really work with those residents who do live in flats, who do live in terrace houses or houses with small gardens, about what we can do. And my second question relates to the rollout timetable. My recollection was when I held the portfolio, I'd agree with officers that following Cabinet, the paper would go to full council on the basis that this is a decision that's going to affect every ward in the district, and it was thought that as a result full council should agree it and discuss it and vote on it. That seems to have been pulled from the timetable. I'm just wondering why. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mark, for those comments. I believe there will be a team going around supporting the residents that don't have a lot of space for storing this. I'm going to go to Anne-Marie with regarding the timetable, or Richard. Would you like to, either of you like to comment with Mark's last question regarding the timetable?
So the question from Councillor Whitton about engagement, that will be the team that has worked with us from Lincolnshire County Council. They will be visiting those households, particular focus on flats or those that do need support to improve their recycling practices overall, and also to establish whether at this point in time they can join the scheme. LCC are currently working with Palm Paper, the paper mill, to look at options for the future for those that are unable to have a bin, so that they can participate fully through some sort of SAC scheme.
Just in terms of the council reference, there's no requirement. Some councils may choose to take it through their council process, but our constitution is clear that this does not require council decision, because there's no policy framework changes, or there's no... Sorry, Siri doesn't know the answer. And there's no budget amendments required either. So it is affecting more than one ward, hence why it's going to Cabinet after today.
I think that's... I'm going to come to you in a moment, Paul, so I've not forgotten yet.
I'd just like to pick up on that, Mr. Chairman. I mean, yes, I was aware of this, but we still decided to take it to full council because of the nature of it. And now, we've been told that this new administration believes in openness and discussion and debate. And now we've got an issue that affects every ward in the council not being taken to full council. And I'm just unsure, how does this fit in with the new administration's so-called policy of openness? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Paul, please excuse me one moment. I'm just going to get a final reply on that, and then I'll come to yourself. So, Leader of the Council, Richard Cleaver, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In relation to the issue being taken to full council, yes, the administration is fully committed to being open and accountable, and if it is the wish of this committee, which is an independent committee, to add to its recommendations that Cabinet this afternoon considers putting the item on the council agenda for later in this month, we will obviously consider it. Thank you.
Right, last time, please, Mark. Thank you.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose an amendment that this paper after Cabinet goes to full council.
Okay, can I just say, Mark, well, I'll come to a proposal after we've had the discussion, and if you want to add that to it, I'm more than happy to take that. But I do want to come to Councillor Martin.
Do I get a seconder now or not to this proposal?
You will need a seconder, but however, I do want to come to Councillor Martin. He's been waiting patiently. Sorry to keep you waiting, Paul.
Hi, morning. As far as the bins are concerned, obviously a lot of residents, from what I've seen from various polls and such like, aren't particularly happy to have an extra bin. But moving forward from that, are we supposed to be looking for further bins for food waste and such like in the future years to come? Because obviously residents, if they start re-landscaping their gardens to accommodate another bin, or inside the house they're changing their methods of collection and adding, extra bins, cubby holes, or whatever they're going to use to store the waste. If we were to pre-warn them that somewhere down the line they may need to put an extra slab next to their new slab in the garden, they might appreciate that, rather than we just go, oh, we've just changed all your stuff, and in 2 years' time you're going to change it all again. So if that's something that's on the agenda, may I suggest the education that we use involves telling them what's coming as well as what we're doing to them now.
Yes, thank you very much. It's absolutely a fair question. Personally, I don't want another bin. However, I've got room for one, but it's the people that don't have room for one, and I think it's just a matter of courtesy to inform them what may be coming down the line in the future. I obviously can't predict what's going to come down the line, but our officers may have a better idea of what other waste alteration changes may be coming, and I think would one of our other officers like to? Well, Ashley, I think Ashley's would like to come back on this.
Yes, there's a bit of crystal ball gazing involved in it. There are the Environment Act when it was first proposed was full of like, we're going to recycle everything. We're really going to take this to task. Over time, it's been watered down a bit, but it's not yet been implemented. It is still possible that every local authority will be mandated by national government to collect food waste, and currently we do not have the resources to do that, the financial resources to do that. It is expected that if we are mandated to collect food waste, then that will come with a new burdens fund. But nobody at county or district seems sure, or indeed Westminster seems sure, where that new burdens funding is coming from. And we know because of our successful food waste trial. We had a food waste trial that was successful in terms of engagement and participation and popularity and everything, successful in every aspect except that we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford to replace the vehicle, but if we're mandated to do that, we will have to. However, food waste collection bins are not going to be anything like the size of the 240-litre bin. That would be an awful lot of food, and by the time you'd filled it up, it would be pretty stinky. So I can't see that households would require another 240-litre bin. However, we might be encouraging them to have at some point a smaller food waste bin, kind of the size of a shoebox, and there are other things, including batteries, where they might need some kind of receptacle if they wanted to participate in those schemes. Some people will buy into this straight away, some people it will take longer. Thanks to an SKDC tweet about Easter and recycling your hot cross bun wrapping, I challenged SKDC on this and said, what am I supposed to do with my hot cross bun wrapping, meaning the film wrappers? And they said, collect it up and take it to the supermarket. I am astonished at how much difference it's made to my black bin just taking out the film wrapping from food. So it's every day's a day at school. The remaining point about the 240-litre bins is that, as part of the conversation about the Environment Act, we still don't know if we are going to be mandated by the government to provide garden waste collection free of charge. If we are told to collect the green bins free of charge, there's going to be a massive cost, and I think I'm talking about $1 million to changing the way we deliver that service, or rather changing the way we don't charge for that service. I don't know if I've gone off your question, but no, I'm not expecting another 240-litre bin.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, supermarkets do help out with recycling, and I was in a supermarket the other day and I noted the point that you've just raised with regarding food waste. Obviously, it's something we need to try and cut down on. I was always brought up that if it goes on your plate, you eat it. And that's just the way I was brought up. I'm going to come to Councillor. Well, actually, I'm aware that Councillor Gill's not a committee member, so I'm going to take Councillor Gloria Johnson, Chairman of the Council, I have to say, Madam Chairman. So if you'd like to come in, then I'll come to you, Graham.
Thank you, Chairman. Like yourself, I don't really want another great big bin in my garden. I find them very unsightly. But having said that, is this mandatory? And if our residents don't want them, are they allowed to say no? Or have they got to have them because it's mandatory?
Okay, I think Anne-Marie, would you like to come back on the legal point on this? Is it mandatory?
So the legislation allows the District Council to direct how residents present their waste to us, and that also includes the receptacles that they put it in and how they sort it. So yes, we are able to mandate to residents that they do need to sort their waste as we direct.
Thank you very much. Did you want to come back, Gloria?
Just quickly, Mr. Chairman. I fully understand that, and I feel really sorry that it's got to come to something like this. We did try to educate our residents to separate it properly and what have you, but obviously it takes time. But while I've got the microphone, I personally would like to thank Anne-Marie for all her hard work that she has given this council over the years she's been here, and her support that she's given me over my term as office. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Just to add to your comments, Gloria, this last week I've spent a little bit of time. I've actually spoken to some residents in North Casteven. I was actually surprised at their enthusiasm, for this this collection of the paper, and they were actually most enthusiastic about it. So there are some positives with this, without a doubt. Oh, absolutely. I think generally speaking, people don't like change, do they? Generally speaking, but I think when it's a change and there's a lot of positives to come out of this. Hopefully, people will look at this in a different light once it's been implemented and once we've taken it on board for several months. Okay, Gloria.
Now I know that it's mandatory, that when the residents speak to us, then we've got the tools to answer the question. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to come back to Anne-Marie, then I'm going to come to Graham, I think.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate to that, yes, it is mandatory, but an awful lot of effort will go into supporting, helping, educating people to get this right. So, although it is a requirement, we do want to make sure that everyone understands how they do that correctly and support them through this process.
Okay, thank you. Paul, did you indicate to come back? Or
Yes, yeah, just a quick question. Apparently Boston Council say they can supply smaller purple recycling bins. Is that an option for us?
Well, I do know that there are smaller recycling bins in places such as like Cherry Willingham. I know they have smaller capacity, but I think we had a question at the start of the meeting with regarding the size of the bins that Anne-Marie, I think, answered. Did you want to come back on that one, Anne-Marie, please?
It's my understanding that the purple lidded bins for paper and card are all 240 litres, and that is the standard rollout.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to come to Councillor Graham Gill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I certainly welcome this. I welcome and support what our county council colleagues are pushing this forward, and I think we should support it wholeheartedly and roll this out. But, and there is a but, I have the space for an extra bin. Now, one of the biggest pieces of casework I get in Grantham St Vincent's ward, where there are a lot of terraced houses, are people who today don't have space for 2 bins, let alone 3 or 4. So, whilst, as I say, we've heard that it's mandatory and we've got to support this, first of all, because I think it's a good thing, but secondly, it's being driven nationally. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the comm strategy that we're going to have with our residents. Secondly, I think it's a good suggestion if we provide councillors with a briefing note for escalation points, frequently asked questions, because I can see certainly in Grantham St Vincent's ward this will generate a lot of casework where we already get regular contacts for people that don't have enough room for 2 bins or complaining about their neighbours putting their 2 bins or 3 bins on the street. And so I would welcome a briefing note for all councillors. It won't apply in rural wards, this I would suspect, where there's plenty of space, but in urban wards where it's already a problem, I think we need to know what FAQs are out there and how to deal with them. But as I say, on top of that, I think I'd like to hear a little bit more about the comms strategy, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gill. Very fair point, very fair comment. I hope that our council officers can help out to put together something for our members. I have a question. I want to come to Councillor Baxter. I'd like to ask if we've considered for the people that generally do not have the space for an extra bin, have we considered communal areas where we can help to dispose of such extra paper waste? In places like Tenerife, they regularly have communal areas where they recycle, and it works very well in places like that. So that would be a question that I would ask. Have we considered? I'm probably sure we have, but I would just like to ask that question. Councillor Backside, I don't know whether you'd like to come in on that question, or we'll put that to the officers after you've spoken.
Yeah, I've come back on three points. So your point about communal areas. In some of our areas, including some of the flats and shared sheltered accommodation and so on, we already have a system where it's not so much wheeled bins, but 1,100 litre bins in a bin store, which is not without its problems, but they're emptied by the same wagons, and there's recycling and non-recycling, and so I assume, and I'll be corrected by my officers, by our officers, if I'm wrong, that it will be possible to put paper and card in as one of the 1,100 litre bins, and so it'll be a swap over there. On the point of people having to have 3 bins, I wouldn't want to encourage it, but if somebody is convinced that they do not need a purple lidded bin and they can find a different way to dispose legally of their cardboard and paper waste, either through neighbour agreements or by feeding it to the gerbils, I don't know, then obviously we would be reasonable. We would be listening to so if a single person living by themselves who doesn't bring their shopping home in a cardboard box and doesn't take a daily newspaper, it might be that person can find ways around it, and we would be reasonable. Hopefully the council will always be reasonable, and we obviously acknowledge it's a challenge. On the comms strategy, I think I'd need to get back to you and get back to you as part of the member briefing. I think the member briefing is a very good idea, so that we know the FAQs. And as mentioned before, the member briefing is being led by the county comms team and paid for by the county comms team, and the county comms team have already done it. The final point I'd like to come back to, Mr. Chairman, if I may, is the idea of taking it to full council. As the leader has stated, you're welcome to recommend it to go to full council. However, it's unlikely to be on the agenda for the full council next Thursday. That would be a tall order, which would mean that the decision would be delayed until September. And if we want to turn the crank and get the thing going by the middle of January, I would ask, on this occasion, is it absolutely necessary, when we've heard from Councillor Whittington and the Leader of the Opposition and by most people, it's not something that councillors are today angry about, and we have got the scrutiny process, and we have brought lots of information to this committee, and members are welcome to attend the Cabinet meetings. Is it absolutely necessary to take it to full council?
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Appreciate the reply. Right, I'm going to ask any other committee members if they wish to speak, and then I'm going to come back. I'll come back, Mark, for a proposal which I believe you've got in. But I'm going to ask if any other committee members wish to speak. Then I'm going to ask if any other members wish to make any comments on this, and then we'll come back, Mark, for a proposal if you wish to put one forward. Is that okay? Any other committee members? No? Okay. Any other members of the council wishing to comment? Are you all okay? Councillor Ben Gray.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I was just wondering what the carbon footprint behind the manufacture of each purple bin was. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. It's obviously a technical question. Any of our officers like to answer the question?
I'm afraid I can't answer that off the top of my head, but it is something we can take away and bring back to you. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Baxter?
I don't know the answer either, but I would be confident that the carbon footprint of the new 240 litre purple lidded bins will be less than the carbon footprint of the waste which will otherwise go to the energy from waste incinerator or to landfill. The saving on carbon of recycling stuff properly and without the contamination. Contamination in other districts that have done this has gone down from about 30% of what's in the silver bin down to about 10. That's got to be a good thing. There's got to be a carbon saving. So I would say it's a net gain for the council.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the recommendations for the committee, looking at particular number 2, which I just don't want to overlook, is recommendations that the revised South Kesteven District Council Waste and Recycling Operation Policy is adopted. It is on the appendix number 2. I don't know if anybody got any comments on that. Councillor Whittington?
Mr Chairman, thanks for allowing me to come back. Yes, in response to Councillor Baxter's question, yes, this does need to go to full council because it affects every ward in the district. I have received quite a bit of correspondence from this from my own ward members. I'm aware there's quite a lot of social media comments on various pages as well, guys. The public are quite concerned about this. And the point I would make, Mr Chairman, before I come on to my recommendation, is that if the timetable I previously agreed with officers, which was to have brought this paper to this meeting, but also to put it straight on to the full council at the end of July, if that had been followed, we wouldn't be in this situation, me having to propose it. So, and, you know, it's going to Cabinet this afternoon, you know, on the same day as this committee is considering it. We got, the previous administration, we got pilloried by the opposition then, who are now the administration, for taking the insourcing of environment SK grounds main service to committee one day and to full cabinet the next day, and the new administration is doing it on the same day. I mean, you know. But anyway, I won't labour that point. I think this is so fundamentally important. It needs to go to full council. If my original proposal timetable I agree with officers had been followed, it would be on the agenda for the Cabinet meeting on the 20th of July. So I would like to propose an amendment that this paper goes to full council after Cabinet because it affects every ward in SK, and we know that the residents of SK have got a great deal of concerns about this, so I feel it's important that every member representing every ward in this district has the opportunity to contribute to the debate. So that's my proposal, Mr Chairman, and hopefully I'll have a seconder. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Whittington. Do I have a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Paul Martin is seconding that. Okay. I believe Councillor... no, okay. Right, okay, well, we'll go to a vote on the amendment then. Yes, of course you can, Gloria.
I mean, Councillor Baxter's just said that it'll take quite some time to get it onto the council meeting, which means it holds it up. Can we just not have it on this meeting that's coming up next week? I can't see... I mean, we've got all the figures here already, and we only need to add it to the pack so people can study it. I can't see why it can't go on to the next council meeting. What is the big issue that why it can't? Because we need to get it forward, and I as a person don't want it to not go forward, and I don't want to wait till September, October or whatever it is and hold it all up. Surely we can do something to get it onto this next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come to Richard Wiles next.
I mean, just to be clear, Mr Chairman, there is no need for it to go to council. So let's be clear on that. There is no requirement for it to go to council. There is a requirement for it to go to cabinet, which is where it's going to get presented this afternoon. So at most, it can only be a recommendation from this scrutiny committee to ask cabinet to consider whether it wants to put it in front of council, but there is no requirement to do it. The dispatch day for the 20th of July is tomorrow. So we are in a little bit of peril of making sure that the outcome from today's discussion at Cabinet is captured accurately and put into an agenda document that can then be dispatched without holding up the whole agenda pack, because failing it going to 20th of July, we're then into September, so all the traction and gain we've had from today will all be lost, because we'll then be on the back foot to roll it out. The whole point of the debate really was to make sure this was a measured response and we take the community with us. So there is no requirement for it to go to council, but I recognise the frustration that all members may not be cited on it, but ultimately it's for Cabinet to decide this afternoon whether it considers it's appropriate to take it elsewhere. But the deadlines are looming up quickly, and we are in danger of have been out of misstep here a little bit if we don't get a clear direction on this.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, I'm going to take, I believe, Councillor, the leader. The leader of the council is going to give a reply on that, and then I'm going to go to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would point out that all members are notified of all papers for all scrutiny committees by email, as far as I remember correctly. There is a procedure for all members to input to scrutiny by putting in written requests under our constitution. which I have pointed out in my member update I think on a number of occasions. So members actually can make an input to scrutiny. Scrutiny, in a sense, is a better forum in which to have an informed debate. That's why we have scrutiny, and everything doesn't go straight to full council in the first place. So I would just make the point that all members have had an opportunity to participate in this debate on this issue, and many people have chosen to turn up today, many of them cabinet members, and nobody, no councillor has actually put in a written submission to this committee on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. Mark, I've given you a couple of opportunities to speak already on this. I want to go to the vote on this amendment.
Mr. Chair, because if they'd kept to the original timetable, it would have been on the agenda for tomorrow. They've made that point. Timetable.
Mark, you've made that point, and I've given you opportunities to speak. I'm sorry, Mark. I've given you several opportunities to make that point.
Council, who talks about openness, and the first opportunity.
Okay, I'm going to the vote.
It goes back on it.
I'm sorry, Councillor Baxter, I'm not taking any more comments. We've had the response from our officers as well, so I'm sorry, Mark. I've been fair to you. I've given you several opportunities to speak on this. Okay, I'm going to go to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment for going to full council. All those against? And I do believe I have the casting vote, so therefore, I'm sorry, Mark, the amendment fails. I'm sorry. Okay, do we have another proposal? Or I shall recommend the two proposals as they are on the agenda. Do I have a second for the two proposals as they stand on the agenda?
No, I'll second.
Okay.
So I'll second.
Okay. Right.
We need a third.
No, we've got seconds, so that's fine. I'll take the vote on it then. All those in favour of the recommendations that's on the agenda, the two recommendations. Thank you, Chloe. All those against? Abstentions?
I would like my
recorded. That's fine. That's fine, Councillor Whittington. No problem with that. So yeah, that's passed then with the recommendations that's on the agenda as such. Okay, thank you very much indeed for that one. Oh, we'll move on, shall we? Climate change strategy update, please. Serena. Just got to give us an update, verbal update on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As many of the members of the committee are, I'm sure, aware, South Kesteven is one of the many authorities declared a climate emergency in 2019. The UK government also, in 2019, set the target for the whole of the UK economy to work towards being net zero carbon by 2050, which represents a significant amount of work to achieve that goal. Clearly, there's a very strong role for local government to play in helping to reach that target. In March this year, the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee were presented with the Council's first draft of our climate action strategy. The purpose of the strategy is to provide a framework for action for South Kesteven to reduce carbon emissions across the whole district and to safely adapt to the unavoidable impacts of a changing climate. The strategy includes 8 key themes to be addressed as part of the Council's overall approach to tackling climate change. Following the discussion in March at Environment OSC, it was agreed for the climate action strategy to go out to consultation. This was to ensure that all key partners are able to input on the strategy and that we've got a very strong resident input on the strategy as well. Thinking about the timing of that session in March and working around the sort of pre and post election periods, the consultation was in fact launched at the beginning of this week. Town and parish councils will be contacted this week to input on the consultation, as well as key stakeholder groups. to make sure that everyone's got a chance to review that strategy and have their say. The questionnaire will also capture some key information from South Kesteven residents on what kind of actions they might already be undertaking around climate change. So, for example, energy efficiency at home or changing the way they travel. The consultation, as I said, is open now unto the 7th of August. Following 7th of August, we will immediately analyse the results of that consultation and consider any changes that might be needed to the draft of the climate action strategy that was presented to the committee in March. The results of that consultation will be referred to this committee in October, as well as any feedback on the climate action strategy as well. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions on that item.
Serena, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, consultations period, so please do participate. And as Serena says, it will come back here in October. Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And I very much welcome the draft strategy going out for consultation. When I took over the portfolio in February of last year, I was much aware that we didn't have a climate change strategy, so I was really pleased to ask the officers to develop one, because we are quite a little bit behind the curve on this with regard to a lot of other district councils. I really think it's important that we get the views of the public, obviously. I'm just wondering if the officers or cabinet members can provide us with an update as to what happens after the consultation process is open. I would hope it would come back to this committee, and I hope it would go to full council. But to be honest now, I'm not that sure about that one. Thank you.
Councillor Whittington. Thank you for your work in the past on this, though, Mark. I've got it here in front of me, the document that we're all referring to. Quite some document. A lot of work's gone into it. So thank you to Serena for all the work and effort that you've put in on this. Yes, it will come back in October, as we've said. Sorry, Mark, was the question in there with?
No, it was just following the consultation. Just if either the cabinet member, a member of the cabinet, or the officers could then tell us what the trajectory following that is. Will it go back to this committee? Will it go to full council? Who knows now on that? Just for us a little bit of guidance as to the future direction of it. Thank you.
Okay, I think our officers indicated that it will come back in October. I think Councillor Baxter would like to speak on this.
We will obviously look at the results of the consultation and so on. If members are minded to take this climate change action strategy to the full council, then it's possible to do that. The deadline isn't as urgent as the previous item, and the implications of the climate action strategy are massively greater, I would say, and it would send a signal to our communities that climate action is something that is kind of important enough. I don't think there's any legal obligation to take it to full council, but if this committee is keen to take it to full council once it's been through the ringer again, then why not?
Okay, thank you very much. I think any other members of the committee wish to speak first? Councillor Graham-Gill.
I'm going to make a cheap jibe here, but obviously, I mean, I think something like a cabinet climate change strategy should go to full council, because this administration obviously wouldn't want to be accused of hating scrutiny. So this would definitely have to go to full council, I think, because it affects everyone, literally everybody in the ward. It's a high priority for everybody in the entire district. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We're certainly having a lively meeting today. Has this been the liveliest of all the OSC so far? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. So it's obviously for noting the verbal report. So Serena, thank you very much indeed again for your input on that. Okay, we're moving on to update on the upgrading of streetlights to LED. Is it Councillor Baxter? I think is going to introduce this one for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm probably really sorry if the cabinet members are not here today with the amount of talking that I've done. However, I did present this to the Finance Committee some time ago, and they put it through to this committee, which is unusual that an item would go to two scrutiny committees. You will see that you are given two choices today, which I think is unusual compared to historic. Usually scrutiny committees are given a firm recommendation of this is what we want you to do. In this case, we are asking the question. I'm certain what I want you to do, but you can see that the recommendations are to proceed or not, and to proceed with the overnight dimming, which saves some money, or, underlined, or to turn off some streetlights between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. I've put 1 a.m. rather than midnight because one of the things that was mentioned at the previous scrutiny committee, the finance, was that some of the antisocial behaviour, and I think it might have been Councillor Green that noticed that antisocial behaviour tends to happen up until the pubs and clubs kick out at 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock was seen as a better time to switch them off, if we switch them off at all. The council is responsible for 3,893 street lamps. We are not responsible for the street lights along main roads, the A1, the high streets and so on. There are some small streets where we are responsible for the street lights, including outside Councillor Dilks's house, I believe, is an SK street lamp. Don't let that affect your decision. But most are on footways and paths and in areas where we've historically had the responsibility. There are other streetlights that people can talk about if they like, which belong to the county council, which belong to the parish councils in some cases, and private companies and so on. Floodlights over a football pitch are not our responsibility. So we're asking you today to make a decision about upgrading the street lamps. I think Finance Committee were fairly clear that it's a saving to be made. I had this argument at the previous environment when I was in opposition, saying we should get on with this because it's a saving. If we had taken the decision, I think it was 4 years ago, to expedite the upgrade of streetlights to LED, then we would have made all that saving already. The saving is still available. It's an ongoing programme. If we do nothing today, then they will still get replaced bit by bit by bit, but it will take ages. And currently, it looks like a 5-year payback. I think the figures are in the document. 5 or 6 year payback for replacing the lamps. So, please, let's get on with it. Item 1, let's get on with proceeding. Item 2, we have the option of turning the lamps out. I'm advised by the Climate Change Advisor that there is the functionality within the lights to kind of mess about at a later date without necessarily needing a cherry picker going into every light in the district. So if we make a decision to leave the lights on and we later decide that we want to turn them off, that's an option, and vice versa. So it's a less kind of critical decision, but we would appreciate the thoughts of councillors here as to whether or not turning them off overnight is the right thing to do between 1 and 6 to be in line with the county council. You know that when the county council discussed this issue some time ago, there was an awful lot of noise and feedback, and I think you could say it was an unpopular decision. Who knows how our cultural preference for streetlights being off will have changed between now and then. So I don't think I have anything else to add. I hope that's sufficient introduction, Chair.
Excellent introduction. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Councillor Baxter, for presenting the paper. I was chairman of the Finance Committee that considered this, and we supported. Our view was the recommendation to support either option 1 or option 2. I think the case for doing this is unquestioned, really. It probably should have been done previously, but hasn't. I think we've got a great opportunity now. I think the increase recently in utility prices has it's reduced the payback period quite considerably, actually. Either option 1 or option 2, payback period of 5.3 for option 1 or 4.5 for option 2 is well within the sort of range of fairly average sorts of payback periods. So I'm going to be supporting this. I voted for it as chairman of the Finance Committee, so I'm going to be supporting it here. In terms of which option we go for, my personal preference would be option one. I think, based on what Councillor Baxter has said, and also being on the County Council, when we discussed turning off street lighting, there was an awful lot of unpopular it was a quite unpopular decision. It doesn't materially alter the payback period a great deal. Obviously, there's more saving in carbon reduction by going along option two. It's sort of 23 tonnes per year, so that might be a consideration. So, as I say, I'm going to be supporting this, but I think it's just a question of deciding which option we actually support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. One of our officers has indicated to speak. However, I'm going to take Gloria first, just in case she has a question that may have an answer that.
Thank you. Likewise, I was at the FedCo meeting along with Mark. I think it's something that we should go ahead with. My only issue is we're saying option one and option two. Which one of those is to proceed with overnight dimming? Is it option one or option two? Option two. Well, I feel that we should do the overnight dimming. That's my only concern. There's the two options, and that was the one thing at FedCo that was an issue, whether to go for, leaving them on all the time or turning them off. And my preference is for turning them off. Thank you. Oh, and the other thing is, I just would like Richard just to reiterate that the funding is still there and everything is above board with all that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to come to Richard Wiles next, and then I'll come back. So no worries. Richard, thank you.
Just for clarification, the reason this has come forward is because the last time this was looked at in detail, the payback was in excess of 12 years because the energy costs at that time were low enough to not warrant the level of investment. This has only come forward now because obviously of the unfortunate escalation in costs. So this has come at the fore of our league of tables of energy use. This is now £250,000 a year to deliver the existing infrastructure on the current level. So that's why it's come forward now and was not supported in previous lives. I think, with the greatest respect to the recommendation, the second one, I think we're in danger of getting a little bit hung up on that issue at this time because it doesn't fetter the ambition that's been put before us, which is, do we go for the wholesale replacement or do we carry on with the incremental replacement as and when a bulb comes to the end of its life and replace it with an energy efficiency one? The stark choice is whether the council wants to invest the size of £1 million to completely change the infrastructure of the columns. I would suggest the debate about the policy around the dimming or not dimming could be a work programme item this committee could consider in a probably a more meaningful way at a later date. We are way behind having that debate because it doesn't restrict or compromise the scale of the proposal to change all the infrastructure, and as previously been said, the technology is then built into the replacements, which allows this council to modify its offer during the hours of the night or within the seasons or within an urban or a rural area. I wouldn't want that element of this to distract or dilute the scale of the proposal that's been put in front of you. So I do accept the one and two nuances, but actually that's not really the discussion. The discussion is whether you want to go for the £1 million investment and enjoy the payback as described, and then let's come back to the discussion about the policy of whether or not the lights stay on or don't. That's a policy issue that could then follow after the investment's been put in place. Going back to the comment about is the money still there? I mean, let's be clear, the money was never there. That's the action will be put the money there depending on the outcome of the debate today and Cabinet's recommendation when it goes before them. We did discuss, and the Chairman was obviously managing that meeting, we discussed variations of how that money could be assembled by using some of the existing reserves and earmarking some monies to make sure the money is there if the ambition is supported ultimately by Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to come back to Gloria because she wants to come back on that. Then I'll come to you, Mark.
Can I propose then that we accept the number one and then the other to go back for discussion at a later date. Thank you.
That absolutely cool. I was going to suggest that anyway, but thank you. Councillor Whittington.
Thanks. I was going to suggest that, so I'm happy to say that as well. I think we move ahead with option 1, and then look at option 2 as a kind of, to see if we then move towards it. But coming back, my question on the cost was, I'm just wondering, it's going to cost £1 million. Okay, we did discuss at Finance Committee a number of reserves potentially it could come out of, but we know there's going to be the creation of this £300,000 climate change reserve. You yourself, Mr Chairman, asked us at the start of this meeting if we had any ideas as to where that could be spent. Well, I would like to say that I think this is a great place where that £300,000 could go towards covering the cost of that £1 million. So I'm just wondering, get the view of the officers on that, but also a little bit more information about where they think the balance of the £1 million could come from if we did decide to spend or allocate part of the £300,000 climate change reserve towards £1 million. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I think there's 1 or 2 suggestions coming forward on where that 300,000 should be spent, and there's a lot of ideas. So I think it can be certainly put in the mix there, Mark, without doubt. I'm going to come to Councillor Richard Cleaver because I think he'd like to respond to some of the questions.
You. Just a couple of points. Obviously, Scrutiny Committee, anything you want to be considered by Cabinet, put it in your recommendations, so they're minuted as recommendations. In terms of coming back, as Councillor Johnson has suggested, to discuss the issue of the overnight dimming, I would point the committee to the existing policy of county on this matter that you might like to use as a template for your own preconditions as to where it should and shouldn't apply, rather than it applying as a blanket item. And also, I would remind you the county, who of course operate dimming, as you're aware, they do have a policy to allow parish and town councils to pay for the lights to be kept on if they wish to. So I would urge you, again, being thorough, as I'm sure you wish to be, to take those 2 issues on board if this comes back as part of your work programme. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Baxter, then Councillor... No, sorry, I'm going to take Mark first.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the suggestions that the leaders just made are very sensible. There's part of that process. Obviously, we would look at what the county are doing, but potentially also look at our own policy as well. Because I think that a blanket overnight dimming probably wouldn't work. But we do need to look at this in a little bit more detail. And I say, rather than holding the process up, I think Councillor Johnson's made a great suggestion that we actually agree option 1 with a proviso then that we look towards dimming, but consider all of the issues, just doing everything in the melting pot, to then work out our own SK policy, which may be informed by the LCC, may be informed by what parish and town councils want, as part of that process. Thank you, Mr Chairman.
Thank you. They can obviously all come forward and we can discuss those at a forthcoming meeting. I'm going to take Councillor Baxter, and I'm going to ask if any of the members of the committee wish to speak, then we'll go on to the vote.
Okay, thank you. So, addressing the point of where the money is coming from, and I'd welcome the input of the finance officer on this. However, we're not intending to set up a 330,000, is it 330 or 300,000 pound climate change fund, only for it to be snatched away to do something that we really should have done 4 years ago. To set up a fund and then immediately snatch it for something which is day-to-day operations, I think is not within the spirit of setting up the climate change reserve. The committee might disagree. I can assure you, because I've had the conversation with Mr Wiles, that there is a fund to do this, and it will reduce our operational expenditure year on year. I can't remember, I think by about £200,000 a year. So yeah, the money is there elsewhere. I would prefer more creative ideas for the climate change reserve, and there are plenty. There are trees and hedges. You can call it hedge fund if you like, Chair. There are opportunities to pump prime community projects. There are plenty of potential schemes for solar and emerging technologies on our bill. There is plenty that we can spend £330,000 on besides doing what is obvious. My second point is to draw members' attention to page 97. This is the street lighting policy that I wrote in 2018 and which went through the process of having a policy. And the first part of our street lighting policy, regardless of the county's policy, is to provide illumination when and where required. So, I'm delighted with the comments of the committee so far to say we should get on with recommendation 1 on page 89 to proceed. Great, let's proceed. But we have, it's not for no reason that we've brought you this question of the dimming. I would prefer you didn't kick it down the road and wait for a later day because we can. I would prefer to get even if you're not in consensus, I'd like to hear the opinions and the opinions of the committee on whether or not we should turn lights off overnight or whether we should just dim them. And so that question is whether or not illumination is required between the hours of 1 and 6 o'clock in the morning. And you can discuss it in 6 months' time if you like, or you can discuss it today. I don't mind, but I would prefer today, really.
Yeah, thank you. Personal view on that is I think it all depends on where you want to switch them off or where you want to dim them, and I think that needs to be part of the discussion. However, just going on to the £300,000, we've got a lot of creative ideas that will be going into the pot, and if there's any left over, then I don't see any reason, if there's any left over, of going into towards this. Okay, I'm just going to take. I've got our officer. That I'm going to bring on Richard. Sorry, Richard. I'm going to take the other couple of members first, and then I'm going to ask you to sum up before we go to the vote, if that's okay. So I'll come to you in a moment, Graham. Any members of the committee wish to speak first, and then I'll take Councillor Graham Gill, and then our officer, and then we'll go to a vote. Okay, Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for allowing me to come back. Still didn't really get any assurance as to where the £1 million is going to come from, which is a concern of mine. I mean, I appreciate what Councillor Baxter and the Section 141 officer have said.
Would it be helpful at this point for...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've indicated how I'm going to take this. I think Richard will sum up. So, Councillor Whittington, please do continue.
I think it would be useful to actually know. This is a big commitment of money. We know that we know the money's tight at the moment. I personally think this is a good scheme. It's something we need to do. There is a good payback period. There will be savings on the operational budget, which is great, fantastic. But I still just would like some assurance as to where the money is going to come from for it. And in terms of coming back to what Councillor Baxter has just said, I don't think there's enough information in the paper on all of the options around dimming and turning some off. We know, as the leader has just said, there's all kinds of other policy documents. I don't think we can make that final decision on option 2 today because there's just not enough information in this paper to do that. But I think the commitment from the committee is we'll proceed with option 1, but then we will look as to how we move towards some elements of option 2 and look at some elements of perhaps dimming, some perhaps to turn them off. There's just not enough information in the paper to make that decision. I appreciate that Councillor Baxter wants that decision today. I personally do not believe there's enough information in this paper to make that decision, but there is to proceed with option 1 with a view to look at options for dimming as been proposed by Councillor Johnson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, ask any other members of the committee wish to speak? No, I'm going to Councillor Graham Gill.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's nice to see another Conservative policy coming back to this committee to see it through. Just as a point of information, the reason why it wasn't rolled out in full 4 years ago was in part, as Richard has mentioned, because of the price of energy. But also the Council wanted to understand the ongoing maintenance, the rollout costs, how quickly these have... Those lessons, I understand, have now been learnt, so I welcome this coming back. I think we can move forward with this. I mean, obviously, the actual carbon reduction figures are relatively low across the whole district. I think these figures are based upon coal-based generation as well, rather than renewable-based generation. But even if it's not the biggest energy saving, as an investment return, we're looking at a 15–16% return on our money annually here. So financially, this makes sense. I mean, I accept the question, where's the money coming from? I mean, the obvious answer to that is it's coming from reserves, isn't it? I think we just need to know which reserves that's coming from. And although I appreciate your question, Justy, about dimming, I think that the feeling of the committee is that that everyone's open for dimming, everyone's open for switching these lights off. But exactly as the chairman says, I think it's not a blanket answer. This, we need to understand there are certain areas where you wouldn't dim, and you'd want those lights on, and there are certain areas where, of course, you'd switch them off. So I think there's that next level of detail required, exactly as the chairman has suggested here. But I certainly welcome this coming back to the committee. It's the right time. I think there was a good reason for us doing a pilot project first. We've done that. I welcome it being here, and I'm sure the committee will support this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Gill, for that. I was going to go to Richard, however, Gloria's indicated she wishes to speak, so I'm going to take Gloria, and also Councillor Dilks has also indicated he'd like to speak, so I'm going to take Councillor Dilks that, and then I'll come to you, Richard, if that's okay. Gloria.
I think by the time it's rolled out and everything, we've got a few months, and I think during that time it might be worthwhile consulting with the parish councils as to where they feel the lights should be left on all the time, and where they could be dimmed and where they could be turned off, and have a consensus, and then we can have, as a committee, decide which way we're going to go. That's all I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Absolutely fair comment, thank you. Councillor Dilks.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for allowing me to speak. As Councillor Baxter said, I do have an SK street light outside my house on a main street of the ward I represent in Deep in St James. It shines into a bedroom. So I suppose I should declare an interest in that I already have a saving that I don't need much of a light bulb in that bedroom. It is on all night, and it's interesting, as a double hatter, as some of us are on the county, when they went and the lights were turned off. Of course, the lights that were only turned off were county council lights, and they happened to be in the brand new, or the new estate area of my ward. In the old part of the village where I live, the lights remain on. They are SK lights, and actually a former leader of this council made it absolutely clear that we would never be turning a street light off in the late at night, and following the county. So I'm pleased that we have come round, and there is, sort of broad support for this move. I as county councillor, though, got ribbed when and it's been raised several times as to how come the lights on in your street, but in my street where I live in the new estates, they're turned off in the middle of the night. Some favouritism going on because he's got one shining into his bedroom, So I do welcome sort of the move forward, and we have, as I'm sure Councillor Baxter said, it's gone round and round in circles. How many meetings, how many hours has this council in the past 4 or 5 years been discussing, what to do and whether... But so I kind of welcome, and I hope we will get on with it. And I don't welcome sort of doing one thing and then in a few months or in a year's time sort of changing that, and then chopping and changing what we're actually doing. So we really need to, in my view, get a policy and move ahead with it as quickly and practically as possible. One last thing I would just sort of say is I'm not a member of the Green Party, but you know I am not a climate change denier either, as I'm sure nobody in this room is. But so often we are told that you know these things, climate change mitigation is very expensive and we can't afford it. This, on the other hand, as Councillor Gill rightly says, this is a win-win situation. We are cutting our carbon footprint, and we're getting a 5-year payback because of energy increase costs. So it's just a win-win. Let's get on with it, please. Thank you.
Councillor Fieldhills, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate your comments. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Richard, and then we'll discuss the proposal that Gloria's put forward.
Okay, there's just 3 points I think have already been touched on, so I don't want to kind of labour the point. But the reason why, as officers, we're recommending the policy around the operational element of this comes back is because we need to be mindful of the Police and Crime Commissioner, some more evidence around antisocial behaviour hotspots. With great respect to Councillor Baxter and myself, actually nightclubs close at 4 AM. Not 1 AM, so we don't know because we're not nightclubbers. But so there is a nighttime economy that we need to be very mindful of as well. We're also aware of CCTV cameras that will be blighted in terms of their operational effectiveness if we turn off the wrong lights at the wrong time. So I think there is more information that is needed to make an informed decision. So that's why I'm suggesting that one is put on the programme and we come back to it. And we don't defer it unnecessarily, but we allow the time to have the evidence in front of yourselves to make a more informed decision on it. With respect to the reserves, I mean, my recollection of the meeting was we did have a good debate about this, and we did not, as a committee, it was not recommended to use the climate change reserve because there's already been reference. There are a whole range of other proposals that are going to come forward in the next few months around solar panels, other energy efficiencies. We own over 200 assets. This is dealing with one asset. We've got a whole range of different assets where we are burning carbon and inefficient energies currently that we need to put better solutions in place, which was part of the rationale as why that 300 needs to be put to other uses other than just being completely overwhelmed by this one, which clearly will leave us 700 short anyway. So the recommendation from it, and is in my financial comments, appreciate the minutes from that meeting perhaps aren't available at the time in which the paper was put together, but we did suggest that 3 reserves would be used, which was 500,000 from the local priority reserve, 250 from the investor save reserve, and 250 from the budget stabilisation reserve. And the reasons for those being used was to protect this 300,000 reserve so it can be put to use on other efficiencies. Otherwise, as I say, this one will be consumed by this one item, and then we'll have nothing else in which to fund all the really good initiatives that Serena and Debbie are working on, and we want the committee to see those coming forward in the next few weeks as well. Thank you. Just sorry, I know it keeps being mentioned about, we've been talking about this for years, let's get on with it. I would reiterate, the business case only came forward at this time because of the energy pressure. There was no positive business case prior to this window. And bearing in mind, it only came to your committee, the Finance Committee in June. I think there is a real sense of urgency to get on with this. But the business case did not stack up in previous financial years. The payback was so long, the council and committees at that time would not endorse it because that money could have been put to other uses and got a better return on it. So, as Councillor Baxter references, there is a sweet spot, and it is now, and it is a case of get on with it if you're minded to support it.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Richard, for that response. But personally, I'm hoping that we can have an item to do with trees with that 300,000. I'm hoping we can do something with regard to the tree strategy. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a second of Gloria's motion that she put forward with regard to number 1 and the addition of it going on the work plan. I believe, is that correct, Gloria? And ask if there's a seconder for it, and then ask for any comments before we go to the vote.
I'm happy to second, Mr. Chairman. And
any comments while you're speaking?
I'd like to thank Richard Wiles for giving me those numbers. That's back up that £1 million. Thank you much indeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just one final comment from Councillor Gill, and then we'll go to a vote on it.
The obvious comment. When would we be targeting that this does come onto the work plan?
Well, hopefully the next meeting. I'm quite happy for that. Yes, Councillor Whittington.
I think, yeah. If we build in the proposal, the options around dimming and switching off come to the next meeting in September, because that gives the officers some time to do that. But we do move ahead today with option 1. If Gloria is happy with that, and we look at the options around dimming and switching off in October. Are you happy with that, Gloria?
Okay. Final comment, Councillor Baxter.
Just in defence of the officers, as we've said, September is not very far away.
October.
I thought Councillor Whittington just said. Okay. Anyway, there are some issues around this, because if we've got 3,893 street lights, some of them are near nightclubs, some of them are outside. Councillor, keep going on about Councillor Dilks' house, but he is on a main road. He is on a main road where there have been accidents fairly recently, so places like that might be quite sensitive. Other places, parks or open spaces, might be less sensitive. So there is some nuance. So if we're going to get, if it were a straightforward, they're either on or they're off, then that would be a relatively easy conversation. Except that it's not going to be they're all on or they're all off. Some of them are going to be on, some of them are going to be off. So that might mean creating a new policy. So if officers are not able, I don't know how many of them go on long summer holidays, but if they're not able to get it here for October, please be forgiving. Thank you.
Okay, no, I don't wish to start a debate whatsoever. However, I know we've still got a couple more items on the agenda. Our officers, our officers wish to speak, but I just note that Councillor Gill wants to come back. I think I'll take Councillor Gill just in case there's any questions he would like a reply to.
Well, just the obvious follow-up to that. So if October you think might be a challenge, would December the 12th be more realistic? We just want to understand the workflow arrangements here, just so that we can diarise them. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my concern as well.
I was
Debbie
just going to
Roberts.
propose that if we could have that agenda item for December, I think it's far more achievable, given that the budget the discussion's only going to happen in September.
Okay, we'll go to a vote then on this. All those in favour of Gloria's proposal? Unanimous. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, we haven't finished yet. We're getting there, though. We are getting there. Right. We've got the. Oh, don't forget this one, do we? 9A. Number 9A. Don't forget this one, do we, Ben? I think Ben's come for this one as well. Okay. Councillor Dilton, I think your microphone's on.
Oh, apologies.
No worries. Okay. Item number 9A, the A1 litter item. I think, can we have Anne-Marie, is it? Anne-Marie, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yes, this was just to provide a brief update to the committee on the situation with the litter on the A1 and just some principles around that and some of the background work that has been carried out. So the District Council is responsible for litter picking on trunk roads. This does include the A1, and that is so far as practicable to do so. National Highways are responsible for litter picking on motorways and special trunk roads, so there is a distinction there, although National Highways do have overarching responsibility obviously for the use of that road and its maintenance. Lay-bys along the A1 are regularly litter picked by our street cleansing team. A consideration in this is that to safely litter pick the approximately 40 miles of dual carriageway that passes through the district, and that doesn't include the central reservation, so that would be from the area around Long Bennington down to Stamford, excluding the area that passes through Rutland, does require a lane closure and speed restrictions to do that. So that does mean we need to work in conjunction with National Highways when they're undertaking other works on the road. This is usually overnight to avoid disruption to motorists. There's obviously safety considerations to take into account with this for our staff and the other road users at the time. around access, lighting, traffic, uneven ground and various safety issues. And in fact, unfortunately, there was a recent prosecution by the HSE where somebody did unfortunately die as a result of litter picking activities on the A1, sorry, not the A1, a dual carriageway in Norfolk. Finally, just for really understanding for members, as the works are overnight, we're reliant on our street cleansing staff volunteering to do this as overtime. That does mean they're not available to work the next day. So then there is some impact on the work the next day, or an impact financially to cover off those positions to keep the daily services in progress. Also, this work is going to take quite a number of weeks to do, if you'd appreciate the distance, and it will be constrained by whatever programme National Highways had at that time, and the sections that they choose to close and allow us to work on. So that just is to provide you with a brief update of the current situation and where that stands. Thank you.
Anne-Marie, most helpful. Thank you very much indeed for that verbal update. Okay, I want to take committee members first, and then I'll absolutely welcome other comments from other people. So I'm going to take Mark, then I'm going to take Paul.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Anne-Marie, for the update. Obviously, I was very much involved in these discussions prior to the elections. I'm aware of all of the issues and points that have been raised. But certainly one option we were considering before the election was approaching a specialist company. Obviously, they are trained to do this, and I appreciate one of the problems we ran into with using our own operatives is the fact that we'd have to be reliant upon them volunteering to go and do it, and then obviously not being available for work the next day, which meant we'd have to have got agency staff in. But I believe we did think about looking at a specialist cleaning company, and that we were going to obtain some quotes to see how much it would cost, because obviously they've got all the kits, they've got all the extra lighting required, their operatives are trained specially to do this. So I'm just wondering if any of that work around approaching specialist companies actually taken place or not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I don't know the answer to that question, but we'll take Paul next.
Yeah, I understand there's about 20 miles of A1 which goes through our area, and that goes through 6 different wards. That's a huge distance. The hygiene risks of that, to cover that distance, the rubbish and such like that's thrown there, is very different to what you would find in the normal town and such like, being the way certain people dispose of things out of their truck windows and such like. I think, just as a general point, we need to consider the fact that the waste is probably not normal rubbish, and whatever we push forward with needs to have that as a consideration for other employees and such like.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, I'm going to take Councillor Ben Green next.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this important issue of A1 littering is about nothing less than how this district presents itself to the rest of the world. It's as stark as that. There are 50,000 vehicles that go up and down the A1 daily, so that's 18 million per year. First impressions count. Pride in our area counts. And as motorists are going up our stretch of road, they're noticing a considerable drop-off in the quality of the cleanliness of the side of that road. It visibly puts people off wanting to stop here, to invest, and frankly, I think my residents in Isaac Newton Ward have had enough. And really, what I'm keen to do is to demolish, really, this Jenga tower of myth that's being constructed around the issue of A1 littering. So I have spoken to officers over at Newark and Sherwood where successfully they have cleaned large stretches of the A1, and very interesting conversations. So the way they did it was actually during the daytime. You want to do it during the daytime because you can see danger, you can actually see the litter that you want to pick up, and they did it in gangs of 3. So 2 of the 3 would litter pick, the 3rd had an air horn to look out for danger. The way it was described to me is that there is that exclusion zone, fingertip to chest, so to speak, of the 1.5 metres, where you stay away from the road. It was relayed to me that there was some hesitancy from council cleaning workers to undertake the task, but nevertheless they were strongly encouraged to do so. It is not beyond the wit of man, and frankly, if we don't act, then there is the prospect of, under the Environmental Protection Act 1990, a member of the public triggering a litter abatement order against us, at which time the cost is only going to be worse as that litter picks up. So we either do it now and incur some costs, then reap all the environmental benefits, the cleanliness, the aesthetic benefit as well, or we will be compelled to do it later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ben Green. It is the gateway to South Kesteven, and a Jenga tower of myth. Quite a metaphor that is Councillor Green. Okay, I'm going to take Councillor Whittington and ask if any other members wish to speak on this.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Are we allowed to put any proposals forward on the basis of this? Because if we are, I'd like to propose that we actually do ask the officers to look, into this and to actually present a business case around the options and the costs about cleaning the A1 and bring it back to a future meeting of this committee. So I'd like to propose that formally, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Could you have a seconder for that? No. However, any others? I think Councillor Cleaver, did you indicate a belief?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope people know me well enough to know I don't like Jenga towers of myths. I like to work on an evidence-based approach. And so I took the liberty of filming the A1 as I drove here this morning from Stamford, about 8 miles, section on the northbound. I loaded the video onto YouTube, and members of the committee and all members, and indeed members of the public, will judge from it what the scale of the problem actually is. I won't comment any further. You can see it for yourselves and make your own judgments. I would simply make the comment that you need to assess the size of the problem before you come up with a solution. So let's put that in perspective. I would actually point out, because I don't think it's widely known, there are lay-bys every half mile, certainly on the section that I drive. I think it's about 8 miles. As I drove past them today, they were all spotlessly clean. They have our bins in, and those bins, I believe, are emptied every day, if that's correct. Yes, I'm getting a nod from Anne-Marie, thank you. And actually, we should pat ourselves on the back for that, instead of beating ourselves up about this issue all the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, bearing in mind this is a verbal report that's come forward. Councillor Ben Green, you'd like to come back? Welcome you to...
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Chair, and thank the leader for his comments there. I mean, it's a problem, but at the moment, it's a problem concealed by the summer vegetation. I'd invite the leader to come down to Colesworth and litter pick with the parish councillors there and see the scale of the issue for himself firsthand. I think more broadly, it is a disappointment, frankly, that we're looking at 9A as an agenda item rather than 10, frankly, and that we don't have the full report as promised. I hope that this is really the beginning of a discussion on the topic rather than the end. But really, yeah, I would just implore everybody to consider and to think about going up the A1, past all the litter, and visiting our colleagues at Newark and Sherwood to learn how it was done, because it can be done. Thank you.
Well, whether it's 9A or 10, thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for this report on the agenda today. Okay, it's Mark that indicated first, then Gloria, then I'm going to take Councillor Baxter.
With regard to the comments the leader has just made about his film this morning, obviously my proposal that the officers construct a business case would look at all the evidence. So around this, to see the extent of the problem, I also take Councillor Green's view as well. Where I live in Barrowby, I can walk my dogs alongside of the A1. An awful lot of the rubbish and the litter is not particularly. If you've got a dip down, a lot of it is actually hidden, actually away from the road, especially if you've got a ditch or a line. So a lot of it is going to be hidden, not immediately visible from the road. It is there. I can assure the leader, Councillor Cleaver, that the litter is there. Some of it is being hidden, but until we've actually assessed the problem, which my proposal would actually do, and we know the extent of it, once we know the extent of it, we can then work out how we're going to deal with it, how much it's going to cost. So, therefore, my proposal is that we ask the officers to look into this, come back with a report, a business case, into how we're going to resolve this problem. So that's my proposal, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
That's fair enough. Thank you. Mark, Gloria, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to second Mark's thing because I think we do really need to know how big the problem is, and maybe we could do something like some volunteers to go along some stretches. Whether or not that is possible, I don't know. We have a volunteer litter pickers in Stamford, and maybe that might be an option, but I think we need to know how big the problem is and get some prices. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Now, we've got one or two number of people indicated to speak. It's got Ashley next, then Ben, then Councillor Tim Harrison, then Councillor Elvis Stuck. So I'm going to take you in that order. So Ashley next. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm interested in what's happening at North Kesteven. Certainly I don't want to be responsible for a team of 3 people armed with only an air horn walking along the side of the road where people are optimistically going at 70 and probably going much faster. I'd really like to see the risk assessment that has been done on that exercise. And the same would go for any volunteer scheme to do that. I know people complain about health and safety, but health and safety is there for a reason. There's a reason why people are not climbing up 90-foot ladders anymore, and that's because the risk is now known and is obvious, and we don't want our staff killed. Secondly, I understand what Councillor Whittington says about, well, some of the litter might be hidden in the ditch behind the road or whatever. However, Councillor Green has stated that his reason for asking for this is because of the way the litter presents. So it's not the litter hidden in the ditch that is putting people off investing in our area. It's the litter which is present. I've been up the A1 up as far as Durham and more often to York, where I've got a daughter who's just finishing university. I can tell you that our stretch of the A1 is no worse than most of the A1, and I would say that when you go in that direction, there are spots of the A1 which are far worse in terms of their litter pick. Maybe NK is excluded from that. But Councillor Green or anybody else, I would welcome, please forward to me or to the officers the evidence that you have that people are either complaining about the litter on the A1, there may well be, or I'd love to see any evidence that anyone has not either visited or invested in SKDC as a result of a scruffy A1, if it is indeed scruffy. That's all I had to say. Sorry, and then the report, I'd welcome. I've no problem with the report. If we decide that officers should take time to prepare a report on the cost and benefit of litter picking the A1, fine. It's going to be tens of thousands of pounds to do it. In order to do the road closures and everything else. If the council decides that the priority for spending tens of thousands of pounds is litter picking the A1 to get it pristine as often as it needs to be done, then that's the council's choice. But I'm just saying it's going to be a lot more money than you think.
Yeah, just to say that health and safety, without doubt, is the top priority. So I welcome your comments on that and requested risk assessments, that sort of thing, actually. So, yeah, no, thank you very much indeed for that. I'm going to come to Councillor Ben Green next, although I've allowed you to come back once. I'm allowing you now to come back a second time. So,
well, it's very much appreciated, Chair. Well, I think I'm sorry to see Councillor Baxter as a former Green, no less, acting as an apologist for littering. I mean, we have the opportunity here to act to set an example for our neighbours. You know, Newark and Sherwood to some degree have done that in the areas that they have cleaned. Yeah, it's Newark and Sherwood, not North Kesteven, that you want to be speaking to. But I mean, another facet of this is the lane closure angle as well. So I was actually told that it's a disadvantage. I mean, they found in Newark and Sherwood, we have the rolling lane closures. The litter pickers found it hard to keep up with those areas that were closed, and there's that coordination problem as well with national highways to get the diaries aligned. Yeah, I was very much given the overwhelming impression that you actually want to be unshackled from those lane closures, that those gangs of three can go out during the day, and it's intrinsically safer during the day to be litter picking, just because you see the obstacles beneath your feet, you can see the litter, you can see the oncoming vehicles as well, and that overall thrust as well towards a business case and attaching some figures to this to understand what we're dealing with, I think can only be welcomed. I would again draw reference to the litter abatement order. Either we take it within our gift to clean the A1 and do it ourselves, or we will be compelled to, and there will be fines for us not heeding that order if it is so triggered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for coming along today. Okay, Councillor Tim Harrison. Thank you for coming today, Tim.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to offer some information to the committee. I have 3 friends that actually do this job. They actually pick the litter up from the motorways. They work subcontractor companies that work for highways, etc. It's not a job for any Tom, Dick or Harry to go and do. The safety of this, on average, their company loses 5 people through serious injury or death every year. So that's something to bear in mind. It is a very difficult and dangerous job. Something that maybe you want to bear in mind if they're doing costings is that quite often the same people do the verge mowing at the same time that they do the litter picking. Now, they were actually, the company that he works for, he's a foreman there, and he said to them, are we doing the litter picking this time when we're doing the verges? And they said no, because nobody will pay us for doing the litter picking. So maybe it's worthwhile the committee looking at seeing if we can link in with them, with this company, and while they're doing the verges, do the litter picking at the same time. It's all the safety procedures are in place, and the security is done by guys that are trained to do this job properly. Thank you.
Absolutely fair comment. Thank you very much indeed for that. Councillor Elvis Stuck, please. Thank you for coming today, Elvis.
Thank you. My main concern on the whole of this issue is the costing, as Councillor Baxter has said. I mean, obviously, I understand what people are saying, that there's lots of rubbish on the A1, and I agree with that. But I can guarantee you, within 3 weeks of cleaning it, it's going to be back to square one. Are we prepared to be spending tens of thousands of pounds every 3 weeks to be cleaning the A1? Is that right for the people of Grantham? I don't think so, but I understand what you're saying. I understand what the issue is, but we need to really look at this costing, because I think it's not viable to spending that amount of money, what we seem to want to do, knowing that it could be back to square one within 3 weeks. I'm sorry, but, you know, it's not people in the town that are causing the problem, it's people driving up and down the A1 from different various areas of the UK. And once we have done it, what we're going to be putting out there to prevent it going back to square one again. We need a prevention as well as a cure, and I'd like to see a prevention brought forward to your committee.
Thank you very much indeed for your comments. I'm going to take Richard Cleaver next, Councillor Richard Cleaver, and then I'm going to come to Councillor Paul Martin.
Thank you again, Chairman. Of course, you mentioned in our gift. It's not in our gift, it's a statutory responsibility. And I would welcome the committee making a recommendation, if it wishes, as to whether we should lobby central government for this legal requirement to be placed on Highways England and not upon us, given that in some people's minds it's rather inconsistent that Highways England is responsible for cutting the grass on the verges, but not for doing the litter picking. That does seem to a layperson to be rather inconsistent. And as I say, I feel that we should, in terms of protecting our revenue, look to ask Mr Gove and central government to take this responsibility away from us, frankly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, I'm going to take Councillor Paul Martin. Actually, Councillor Gill's got his hand up. I think I'm going to take Councillor Gill next, because then I want to finish off on the committee members. Then we've basically rounded up with regarding non-committee members, if that's okay. But then I'll come to Paul, and Bridget's also indicated to speak. Mark has also. Mark, I'm going to give you the chance of sum it up on your motion. That's fine, but I'll come to you then, and if Gloria wishes to speak, I'll also give Gloria the opportunity as well. So Councillor Gill next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I will take a look at Councillor Cleaver's YouTube video, but I'm sure he's not suggesting there's no problem whatsoever. We all know that there's a problem with litter. It's a regional problem. What Councillor Green has said is that a neighbouring authority has cracked it. Now, it's a statutory responsibility of ours to keep this area that we can't keep clean. Now, a neighbouring authority has cracked it. We should be looking at what they've done. We should be understanding what it is before these additional costs could be coming our way. So I support the recommendation here. Prevention rather than cure. I think that's also could be part of that exercise, looking at how we can do that. But again, I mean, just because litter, when you pick it up, somebody else might throw more litter. Again, I mean, that's an argument for not collecting any bins in the whole district. We need to collect litter wherever it's a statutory responsibility. So I think Councillor Stuck's absolutely right with prevention rather than cure. I think we do need to do more work on that. But this is a regional problem. The vegetation at the moment, I also drove up the A1 on Sunday, and the central reservation is horrendous. The side, much of the litter is in the longer grass because of recent rains and things. But that will die back, and it'll be a stain on our district, especially given that a neighbouring authority has cracked it. So I do believe that we need to do a piece of work on this to understand how it is that this neighbouring authority were able to do it, and what we can do to I won't come up with one of Ben's rich metaphors, but you know how we can square this circle or something like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm trying to be fair to everybody. I did allow Councillor Ben Green to come back twice. Councillor Tim Harrison has indicated that he would like to come back, so I'm going to give Tim the opportunity to come back now, and then I shall ask if any of the other members that's not on the committee a final opportunity to come back if they so wish, and then I'm going to come to Paul. So my apologies for keeping you waiting, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I keep hearing this, that Newark and Sherwood have cracked it. Perhaps the committee should see proof of that, because I drive to Newark and Sherwood twice a week at least, or through Newark and Sherwood, go to Ollerton, and I'm afraid I'm not seeing that they've cracked it. Maybe we should see the proof that they've cracked it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Baxter, and then anybody else? Last chance? No? Okay, then I'm definitely going to come to Paul Martin.
Just to quote you from the Newark and Sherwood District Council website, press release, Newark and Sherwood District Council tackles littering along the A1. They are closing the lanes, they are working through the night, and the press release does say that the previously used methods of cleaning the A1 are no longer suitable. And as a result, the District Council is working with Amy, who have the maintenance contract for the specified areas, to utilise their road closures to carry out the cleaning duties. So there may be more to this Newark and Sherwood answer than meets the eye. But yeah, sure, we'll give them a call, send them an email and find out what exactly is going on and how much it costs.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to come to Councillor Martin. Sorry, Graham, but I did give an opportunity. Councillor Moore, sorry to keep you waiting, Paul.
Sorry, I've almost forgotten what I was going to say. What it is basically is we are an environment committee.
Sorry, Paul, can you just point your microphone towards you a little bit more?
We are an environment committee. At the end of the day, we're supposed to be looking at environmental issues. If the A1 has tons of rubbish dumped on it, regardless of the fact it's not the centre of Grantham, which somebody just referred to, this is South Kesteven. We have residents in 6 rural wards who are affected by this. So Grantham, we can park Grantham, this is the whole district. It's important that as an environment committee we look at the effects of littering. And to hear people going, oh well, it's only on the A1, there are still animals out there, there's still environmental issues. And we can't just sit back and say, oh, we're going to ignore it because it's not in Grantham and such like. So the residents are asking, it took me 2 minutes to find an article in the Grantham Journal, residents frustrated as rubbish dumped on A1 between Grantham and Newark. It's there, that's from February. So people are actually bothered about this. The residents are asking, it's not, we need to be listening. So I would definitely say to people, let's get this review done. Let's have a look into what the issue is, and then we'll know where we're at.
Councillor Martin, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Bridget Lee.
Thank you. I actually agree with the leader and what he said, and I think that's something that we really need to look at and seeing if we can lobby further up. But further to that, I think this is a big piece of work that needs to be done, and how much work it's going to cause for the officers is a question that I'd actually like to ask, because I know it's a business case, but the business case needs to include lots of other things. And they are already really busy. I'm not against it at all, but I just think we also need to take that into account and how long it would take for this piece of work to be done.
I think we can ask that question. Would one of our officers like to give us an indication of what sort of workload you think it would be, and do you have the capacity to cope with this at this moment in time?
I think we'd have to kind of take it offline, if you like, and come back at a future date. I mean, clearly we've heard what Newark can do, but to be honest, it sent a shiver down my spine, and I'm sure if I spoke to my insurers and said that's our proposal, they would not be underwriting that level of activity. So Newark have done what Newark have done, and good luck to them, but I'm not sure we would seek to replicate it without having a lot more discussion with other parties. It's not, the point's already been made, this is not a budgeted cost. So if the point's also been made, if you do it, it's going to be a sustainable answer rather than just doing a one-off activity. So clearly, the extrapolation of those costs needs to be factored in. We'd probably need to seek some budgetary amendments to incorporate it as well. So it's not, unfortunately, a 5-minute answer by just picking up the phone and saying we'll do what somebody else has done. It's going to be more measured, and hopefully when we come back to you, it's a more informed set of information that we're presenting. So that's a really fancy way of saying I don't think we can commit to September, which is probably what the committee wants to hear. I think it is more likely to be December.
Okay, Richard, thank you very much indeed for that. Okay, before I come to Mark, was ask Gloria if she wanted any other comments. Gloria, are you okay? We've had a really good debate on this, I have to say. It's been quite interesting, to say the least. Okay, Mark, you put forward a proposal. Yeah, would you like to sum up on it?
Yeah, just sum up on it. I think actually I really appreciate the debate. I think I agree with Mr. Chair. It's been an excellent debate. Some great comments that Councillor Harrison made, I think. I mean, certainly we were looking at using a specialist company because we recognised the danger of health and safety issues to our own staff. So, so I can't comment on what Newark and Sherwood have done. It looks as if they may have been working with a company as well. And I think that Councillor Stuke again has made a very good point that potentially if we do this, we might be doing it again in 3 months' time. But I think these are all things that this report can look into, as part of its options. You know what I mean? Because and I appreciate. Richard Wild's comment, it's not going to be an easy piece of work. So I'd be quite happy if it came back in December, that's fine. But I would just like, in light of what the leader has said, in terms of lobbying, I'd be quite happy to amend my proposal. If the leader's happy to lobby on behalf of us at SKDC to either get funding for this or the legal responsibility shifted perhaps back to Highways England, or National Highways as they're now called, I'd be happy to include that within my proposal if Gloria's happy to second on that basis that the proposal is the report and the lobby, and Councillor Cleaver's nodding his head, so obviously I think he'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mark, for that. Gloria, are you happy to second that?
Yes. Let's hope Gove comes up with some cash for us.
Okay. So we're looking at December for a report to come back to the committee. Yes, and the lobbying as well. Yes. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Now the work programme. We're nearly there. We've got. Just 2 more items on the agenda. Work programme. I'm going to come to my Vice Chairman first on this, Councillor Emma Baker. Emma, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. There we go. Here, I think, isn't it? Oh, there we go. It's quite a different one.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to kind of speak to you guys today about the possibility that South Kesteven follow councils such as Ealing and Bournemouth and Cambridgeshire in terms of declaring a biodiversity emergency. I know that this will work in conjunction with the climate change emergency plan that we already have in place. So I just kind of wanted to read this from the government's kind of promotional material. So it says, people care about nature, and nature really matters. Our wooded landscapes provide a haven for wildlife, but woodlands and trees, along with other habitats such as grassland, wetland and scrub, also provide a wide range of broader social and environmental benefits. They lock in carbon, protect our soils, reduce flood risk, which is obviously important to us here, improve our physical health and our mental well-being, and create new green jobs to boost the local economy. The government has committed to halting the decline of biodiversity by 2030 and to achieving net zero by 2050. Investing in nature's recovery, for example, through woodland management and creation, plays a crucial role in securing these goals, whilst delivering a whole host of other benefits. So, I'm just really encouraging us as members of officers, as the Cabinet, to really consider this biodiversity emergency. I know that we're already considering things like tree planting strategies, wildflower planting, No Mow May on the South Kesteven Verges. So all of these things are already being looked at, but I think if we declare an emergency, then we are incorporating them into our plans forthwith, really, and putting it into local plan, etc. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to you guys today for consideration so that we can put it on future plans. Thank you.
Emma, thank you very much indeed. I'm fully supportive of that, so thank you very much indeed. Mark, before I come to committee members, I'm going to come to Serena. I think Serena would like to do a comment now. Must be. I think Richard definitely had something for the work plan. So Richard, come to Richard next.
Yeah, I think it was just to reflect what we've agreed today, which was to recommend the street lighting policy comes to your December meeting. And also, we will bring back the A1 litter picking, which actually is already tabled on your December meeting, so we'll bring back that with a report. The officer recommendation is to move the tree policy item from October's to December's, if that's okay with the committee, to allow more time on the other items that are in the October one. But also, my request was to bring the ESK final accounts to the October meeting, which will be kind of the end of the SK company's journey, as it was dissolved on 31st March 23. So it's to finish that. And then just to remind the committee at the bottom, under the committee's remit, there's reference in the two council companies of Environment SK and Environment SK Commercial. They now need to be removed from the remit, but replaced with street scene and grounds maintenance as in-house services. So, and I think we talked earlier about some scrutiny the committee might want to put on those items now that they're in-house and fully integrated into the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Richard. As you know, I'm keen to have the tree policy on the next agenda. However, I appreciate there's time constraints with officers, commitments and everything, so I might reluctantly have to consider that for the December meeting, because I know we've got a lot coming up for the October meeting. Now I'm going to come to sorry, 1 second, Mark. Serena, would you like to come in?
Apologies, Chair. When you called me earlier, I thought it was in the response to the item on the biodiversity emergency. Regarding the work plan, I would just like to add that every year the Council completes our carbon emissions reporting, and I believe that should be an item which will be ready for the October committee. Thank you.
Serena, thank you very much indeed. Okay, just committee members now for the work plan, if that's okay. Councillor Whittington.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's really just to sort of support your comments on the tree strategy. Obviously, we need to be moving towards this. I mean, a lot of other local authorities do have very, very good tree strategies. I was at the LJ conference last week, and the Woodland Trust had their stall, and Councillor Green was on there. And I did discuss, obviously, with some of the senior management there, that for me, I always think we have the Woodland Trust, you know, the National Tree Charity based in Grantham, and really, as a district council, we should be looking to work an awful lot more closer with them. I tried to develop those links when I held the portfolio, so you know, because you know we got them there, we could. Once we got a tree strategy in place, start to work with them to get some trees planted and become an exemplar authority, so they could, you know, say, come and look at the work that we're doing with SK. But I'll leave it there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, personally, I'm delighted that we've got the Woodman locally as well. So I'm just going to ask committee members if they wish to speak. No? Okay, right. I think we've got plenty of items there to go for the work plan. We haven't finished yet. Any other business by which the chairman wishes to raise? Yes, now, folks, we've had quite a lively debate. It's been a little bit of a baptism of fire for myself, but no, I've loved it. You know, although I do like, you know, as to be respectful to fellow members and whatever. It's been, you know, I don't think we went quite over the top today, but it was really a lively debate. So thank you all very much indeed for coming. However, we haven't finished yet. One final item on the agenda. We've got. I hope we're not going to embarrass her, but Anne-Marie Coulthard is departing at the end of this week. She's been an absolutely wonderful servant of this council. Anne-Marie, there's 24 years, I believe. I personally would like to say a thank you to you for, you know, for what you've done, for, you know, for the help that you've given me over the years. Yeah, you've been a stalwart for this council. This council can't thank you enough for. I'm so disappointed we're losing you, but I'm obviously wishing you well going forward. As Councillor Mark Whittington has indicated he'd like to speak, but just Mark before I finish up.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to reiterate all those comments. I had the pleasure of working with Anne-Marie very closely for 15 months when I held the portfolio in the previous council. Anne-Marie's an exceptional officer. I go as far as to say Anne-Marie's one of the best officers I've ever worked with in local government. She'll be a tremendous loss to this council, but I wish her well. I wish her well for the future in a new career. And thank you for all the work you've done to SK.
Councillor Whittington, Mr Mayor of Grantham. Appreciate those comments. I absolutely reiterate those. Anne-Marie, you can't go yet. We'd like you to come forward because we've got just a little presentation for you that myself and the Vice Chairman would like to give to you. Emma?
Just thank you to the committee, past, present. I've enjoyed working with every one of you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure I will continue to work with some of you in my future role.
Anne-Marie, well done. Thank you kindly. Well, I think we've finished on a good note.